Thank you all so much for being here with us today. I'm going to hand it over now to Ilana to take over and lead us in some learning. Thank you all so much.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So when I agreed to teach this class, I was thinking about how there is a lot of darkness right now. And at the same time, I wanted to teach something, no matter, I was looking at all different weeks, and I was thinking, I really want to teach something about the Parsha. Like, it didn't have to be from the Parsha, but I thought there's always something in the Parsha that could speak to the moment that we're living in. And this Parsha has a few of those moments. I very purposely am not talking about the Dinah incident. That was a choice that I made. And instead, I want to talk about reconciliation. One of the things that, like, it's a dark time right now. And something that I think about is, how can we learn to reconcile with each other? And I'm not only talking about like big reconciliation, war. I'm not only talking about the war, I'm talking about just disagreements that we might have with people we know, polarization, all of that stuff. And so I wanted to look at the way that Esav and Yaakov reconcile, and I put a question mark there because did they reconcile? Where do they leave things? And I want us to explore together mainly the psukim from this parsha that talk about the different steps of what I'm calling is the rupture and then the potential reconciliation. So the rupture, what I'm calling the rupture, is like the incident when stuff went south with them. I mean, stuff was not going great between them earlier, but this part, the rupture part, is not in this parsha. It's a few chapters before, but I think it's still important to see like, where was Esav at the moment, and what was he feeling at the moment that he felt betrayed. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this, and while I'm reading it, I would like you to pay attention to Esav's reactions, because he has a few. Like, what are his different reactions? And Rivka's response, just noticing it. I also chose to use the Everett Fox translation here. It's a little bit more lyrical, and I feel like this is a really emotional moment. Okay, so when Esav heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me also, father." He said, "Your brother came with deceit and took away your blessing." He said, "Is that why his name was called Yaakov, heel sneak? For he has now sneaked against me twice. My firstborn right he took, and now he has taken my blessing." And he said, "Haven't you reserved a blessing for me?" Yitzchak answered, saying to Esav, "Here I have made him master to you, and all his brothers I have given him as servants. With grain and new wine I have invested him. So for you, what then can I do, my son?" Esav said to his father, "Have you only a single blessing, father? Bless me also, father." And Esav lifted up his voice and wept. Then Yitzchak, his father, answered, saying to him, "Here, from the fat of the earth must be your dwelling place. From the dew of the heavens above, you will live by your sword. You will serve your brother, but it will be," scroll down, there we go. "But it will be that when you brandish it, you will tear his yoke from your neck." Now Esav held a grudge against Yaakov because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. Esav said in his heart, "Let the days of mourning for my father draw near, and then I will kill Yaakov, my brother." Rivka was told of the words of Esav, her elder son. So she sent and called for Yaakov, her younger son, and said to him, "Here, Esav, your brother is consoling himself about you with the thought of killing you. So now, my son, listen to my voice. Arise and flee to Lavan, my brother in Haran, and stay with him for some days, until your brother's fury has turned away, until his anger turns away from you and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send and have you taken from there. For should I be bereaved of you both in a single day?" Okay, that's very dramatic. Now, I want us to think about, when I say what are Esav's, the question I'd written here is, what are Esav's reactions to being sneaked against? like, I want to know, there's a few different responses that he has. And I just want us to like figure out together, what are those different reactions? This is like an interesting format on Zoom. So in the chat, just start putting in the chat, what are Esav's different to being sneaked against? Okay, desperation, surprise. I'll just call them out as I see them. Grief, abandonment, pain, betrayal, resentment, jealousy. Okay. Like disbelief. So, do you like, Esav is feeling, he finds it difficult to believe he's been betrayed. Esav seems like he's hurt, he's angry, he's feeling, there's a lot, this high emotions. Emotions are running really high at this point. And he is, I mean, it seems like he is upset about, one, the fact that Yaakov deceived him. Like he calls out Yaakov, but then he also says, haven't you reserved a blessing for me? Like what about me? What is this? And he says a few times, like, me too. What about me? What about me? And so I think there's this anger at Yaakov, the brother who stole, but he multiple times says, like, what about me? Bless me too. What's going on? That kind of thing. And I think that it's interesting that Yitzhak is like, well, like, no, your brother came with deceit and took away your blessing. Yitzhak even puts that emotion. He describes Yaakov as coming with deceit. He doesn't just say he came, he said he was you. He says came with deceit. And he's like, I'm sorry. And he even tells Esav, I made him master to you. Like he's giving Esav what to be angry about. And Esav lifts up his voice and wept. He is devastated. And interestingly enough, though, I was just thinking, it's kind of interesting. He doesn't hold any grudge about his father. Like, not that his father did anything wrong per se, but his parents are involved in this. But he is like he's like, this Yaakov, he's deceitful. He's like, did this stuff to me twice. And I'm not gonna forget about this, because he's saying, when our father dies, like, then I'm gonna come and turn against you. He doesn't say you, it says, let the days of mourning for my father draw near, and then I will kill Yaakov. So he's still being like a pretty, he's being a decent son. He's not gonna kill Yaakov while his father's alive. He's gonna wait till he's dead, be respectful, and then he'll kill him because he's really mad. An interesting thing here, another interesting piece that I thought, is that it says that that Esav spoke to his heart. He said in his heart, and then Rivka was told the words of Esav. So what is happening? How is she told the words of Esav? What does it mean that he's speaking to his heart? Was he speaking like so emotionally so that it's, his heart? Is it that he said it to himself and somehow she just knew as the mother? Unclear, but we do know that he's filled with rage. And Rivka tells Yaakov, you got to get out of here. So now, one of the things I think about is that when there's something, what I'm calling a rupture, when there's something that goes wrong in a relationship, there's a lot of ways to react. So the reaction here is that Rivka thinks this is dangerous. She has no trust for Esav. She thinks, oof, this guy's angry. Even though he doesn't say, I'm going to kill him right away. He does say, I'm going to kill him when my father's dead. But she says, Yaakov, you got to get out of here. So is she saying, Yaakov, you got to get out of here because she really thinks Esav is a threat? Or is she saying, Yaakov, you got to get out of here because, I don't know, maybe she just wants him out because she doesn't want him to get married from someone around? That's a whole other thing later. Unclear. But she makes the choice, and Yaakov makes the choice to leave. So there's not a reconciliation here. There's no explaining what happened. There's just like hearsay, and now they're enemies. Goodbye. Okay, let's look at the next part. Many chapters later, Yaakov has lived a whole life in with Lavan, and now he has left Lavan, and he is going. And he finds out that it's 22 years later, and he finds out that his brother is nearby. Esav is nearby. He hasn't seen him. It's been 22 years. Ooh. So where I think that there's, before reading this, I sometimes think there's a lot of different ways this could go. Like, why is Yaakov hasn't heard from Esav, and Yaakov never even heard Esav himself say, I want to kill you. Like, they didn't actually have a confrontation. And yet he seems to be very afraid of him, or so I think, but let's see. Maybe you'll find other feelings in here. I am once again going to read this. I feel very strange about talking. This is how it's going. This is what we're doing. It's all great. Talking to myself and you at the same time. Okay. Yaakov sent messengers ahead to his brother Esav in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, and instructed them as follows. Thus shall you say to my lord Esav, thus says your servant Yaakov, I stayed with Lavan and remained until now. I've acquired cattle, donkeys, sheep, and male and female slaves, and I send this message to my lord in the hope of gaining your favor. So he's, a lot of my lord here. He says to his messengers, go, like say, oh, my lord. I was talking to my kids about this before, and I said, it's sort of like saying, sir, like he's being really respectful. He's being above and beyond. The messengers returned to Yaakov saying, we came to your brother Esav. He himself is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. Yaakov was greatly frightened. In his anxiety, he divided the people with him and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 camps, thinking, if Esav comes to one camp and attacks it, the other camp may yet escape. Oof, okay. So someone's in the chat saying, is it possible that Yaakov feels guilty and therefore finds it so difficult to face Esav? Yeah, I think he definitely might. There are some issues there, and he might feel guilty, and maybe his guilt is making him feel even more afraid because he feels so guilty about what he did that he's like, oh, of course he's going to be so mad. I'm not sure, but I think something interesting in the above, can you just scroll up for a second, back up, is that this is something I talk about because a few years ago, I taught a group of kindergartners this text, and I was like, oh, they're going to see that Esav is like, really means well. And I just showed them the text. I didn't tell them what I thought about Esav. And they said, oh my God, Esav is coming to kill him. I said, why? And they said, because there's 400 men. He has an army. What are you talking about? You think that's not a big deal? And then we actually had them draw out 400 stick figures so that they could see the number 400. Anyway, that's what we did with kindergartners. But it was interesting that I had read this a bunch of times, and I'd always sort of not paid so much attention to the 400. I just didn't. Maybe that's my reading. I don't know. But I think about the 400 and like, why does he have 400 men? That is sort of a sign of some sort of, it is a military thing that I think I don't have with me in the sources, but there is in some other sources that 400 men is a sign of a military presence. So Yaakov hears about the 400 men, and like my students, he is greatly frightened. He's like, oh no, this is trouble. I went, he had the messengers, they all said, yeah. And in the chat we have, maybe Esav was also afraid of Yaakov's new strength and came with 400 as a precaution, just like Yaakov did. So it's like neither of them has spoken to each other. I want to point that out again. 22 years have passed, and they each have like potentially built up this picture of what the other one is. Yaakov, this like deceitful snake, and Esav, this like big brute who's going to kill me. So he's like, they are imagining or projecting onto the other what they think might be happening. So Yaakov is like, oh, 400 men. Yeah, I knew it. Like, I was right about what I thought about him. And Esav might think, oh, he has all these cattle and donkeys and sheep and all these servants and whatever. Yeah, I guess that whole thing was right. He is going to rule over me, that deceitful guy. He's managed to get really rich. Great, showing it in my face. So Yaakov has his anxiety. He's like, okay, again, he doesn't talk to him. He's like, I'm going to divide my camp into 2. I'm going to make sure I'm going to protect myself. I'm going on the defensive here. And he also does another thing. He prays. He says, oh, God of my father Abraham's house and God of my father Yitzchak's house, oh, Adonai, who said to me, return to your native land and I will deal bountifully with you. Okay, basically God. I am unworthy of all the kindness that you have so steadfastly shown your servant. With my staff alone, I crossed this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esav. Else I fear he may come and strike me down, mothers and children alike. Yet you have said, I'll deal bountifully with you and make your offspring as the sands of the sea, which are too numerous to count. So Yaakov's reminded, hey, God, remember me? Remember that deal you made with my father and my grandfather, that you're going to make a whole nation from me? Can you make sure that that brother of mine doesn't come and kill me and the mothers and children and everyone? Like, remember, you made this promise to keep me and all these people alive. So he's in desperation. He's offering this prayer. And then he spends the night there. He picks out even more presents for Esav. And then he instructs the servants to say, like, Yaakov, if we go down to 19, your servant Yaakov's, this is a gift. And he gives different instructions. This is all a gift. Okay, scroll down. Maybe I'm going to give him presents in advance and then face him. Perhaps he'll show me favor. And so the gift went on ahead and he remained in the camp. And then there's the whole fight with the angel or mystery person, and we're not going to talk about that. Okay, keep scrolling. So basically, we don't have a ton of time, very short. And you to think about it, and these are things you could think about it and put in the chat if you have any comments about the feelings that are coming up for Yaakov when he's praying, when he's coming up with plans. And one of the questions I have for you to think about is, like, what feelings come up for you when you're about to see someone you have had any sort of disagreement with or a falling out with? What do you do to prepare? Does anything Yaakov did before seeing Esav resonate with you? And that's something you can hold on to as we go to this last part, which is the meeting. They meet up finally, okay? It's been this long time coming. Looking up, Yaakov saw Esav coming with a retinue of 400. 400 is still with him. He divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maids, putting the maids and their children first, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Yosef last. Oh, that's a whole other thing. You can think about that. Think about that as you will. He himself went on ahead and bowed low to the ground 7 times till he was near his brother. So he is like going toward him, bowing, really going all in on reverence here, or at least some sort of shown reverence. Esav, on the other hand, ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. Looking about. So let's stop there. What? Esav now comes running and weeping. Yaakov is coming, bowing down, bowing down, bowing down. And Esav's like, God, comes and greets him, hugs him. And I have some sources at the end that are Rashi and Radak on what it is that when he, hugs him and when he kisses him, is it really kissing? Is it biting? Was it really sinister? Was it really a hug? I don't know. I think based on the shot, like not the commentaries, it does. I mean, he runs over and kisses him and they weep. I don't know. I think well, let's just, we have a few more minutes. I just want to finish up this section and then I'll say a little bit more. So looking about, he saw the women and the children. Who, he asked, are these with you? He answered, the children with whom God has favored your servant. So again, Yaakov is, I said to my kids, I was talking about this to them about this in the car. And I said, sort of like, one is saying like, hey bro, like he's talking to you like, you're my brother. And the other one is like, okay, sir, like that their whole interaction is just really different. So, like, who's with you? And he says, oh, the children with whom God has favored your servant. Then the maids with their children came forward and bowed low. Next, Leah with her children came forward. Okay, they're all bowing. And he asked, what do you mean by all this company which I have met? He answered, to gain my Lord's favor. Esav said, I have enough, my brother. Let what you have remain yours. But Yaakov said, no, I pray you, if you would do me this favor, accept for me this gift. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have received me favorably. Please accept my present, which has been brought to you, for God has favored me and I have plenty. And when he urged him, he accepted. And Esav said, let us start on our journey, and I will proceed at your pace. But he said to him, my Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the flocks and herds which are nursing are a care to me. If they are driven hard a single day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I travel slowly at the pace of the cattle before me, and at the pace of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir. Then Esav said, let me assign to you some of the people who are with me. But he said, oh no, my Lord is too kind to me. So Esav started back that day on his way to Seir. But Yaakov journeyed on to Sukkot and built a house for himself and made stalls for his cattle. That is why the place was called Sukkot. Okay, so a few minutes to finish this up. I had some questions where I wanted you to think about this, and you still should. I'm just going to say how I'm thinking about it, and I hope that you have other ideas and can continue thinking about it. Basically, so we have Esav, and he's like, hey, it's as if none of that ever happened. Like he comes running to him, he hugs him, he kisses him, he wants to travel together. And Yaakov does not trust him. Yaakov, and maybe Yaakov's right not to trust him. We don't know. We really don't know what's been going on with Esav. But based on what we see in the text, it seems like Esav has chilled out. He seems okay. He is offering, he doesn't want to take his gifts. He says he has enough. He wants to travel with him. He says he'll go at his pace. Esav offers to help him. He offers a lot of things, and Yaakov's like, no, it's fine, my lord, it's okay. Yaakov never lets his guard down with Esav. He doesn't even, like, there's no, he does say the interesting thing about, well, seeing your face was like seeing the face of God, which is interesting because some people say that it's evidence that when he has this wrestling with this mystery person or God in the night, that maybe that was Esav, and there's a few things there. Side comment, you could look into that. But it also is like maybe seeing the face of God is the relief. Maybe it's like, oh my God, okay, this guy didn't kill me. But Yaakov, like, I think he is a guy who has deceived a lot. And maybe he looks at the world as a world where people are often going to deceive you. If you look at the world as like everyone's out to get me, then you are going to believe even people with fine intentions are out to get you, and you are going to live tricking everyone else. And so another thing that happens later, like I think it's a few prakim later, is that Yitzchak dies. Their father dies, and that's when Esav comes up again, and it says Yaakov and Esav buried their father. So we know that at some point they do come together to bury their father. And I just see Esav as this, like, they just have such a, there's a troubled family dynamic here. And I wonder if they could have talked, if Yaakov could have said, Esav, our mom told me to cover myself and pretend to be you. I wasn't sure I wanted to, but who knows? Yaakov doesn't say I don't want to because I don't want to like mess with Esav. He says I don't want to because I don't want to seem like a trickster. So unclear if Yaakov even would ever have the ability to reconcile. But Esav seems like he is ready to reconcile. And so it's my last thing, and then I really do need to go and end this. But how do you know when you actually can reconcile with someone, and is this a reconciliation? I personally do not think this is a reconciliation. I don't think. I could be, in this moment as I'm talking, I don't think it's a reconciliation because they haven't, clearly only one side has moved on. Yaakov is not ready to travel with him. He's not ready to trust him. He's not ready to talk to him without calling him Adoni. I think that there's no trust. And I think without trust, you can't really have a reconciliation. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes reconciliation can just be about like living together and dealing with each other. I'm not going to like explicitly connect that to the way that we're the polarization and the war, but I think you can think about it in your own way and think about how you would connect it. And I am praying for better times, that's for sure. Yeah, someone says it looks like more like a non-aggression accord than a real reconnection between them. Yes, exactly. Okay, and I will pass it to our lovely Pardes team.
Thank you so much, Ilana, for sharing your Torah today. Really, yeah, just a privilege to get to learn those texts with you. So thank you so much, and thank you to all of our participants who came today. We're really glad to have you, whether it's in the middle of your day or in the evening, taking this time out of your day to come learn Torah with us. We're very glad that you are here. Our series continues. We just have a couple more sessions left, so we'll be meeting next Monday, December 4th, at the same time, to learn with Rabbi Shani Gross, one of our faculty members here in North America, and we hope you will continue with us and join us then. And until then, wishing you all an early Shabbat Shalom, and see you soon. Thank you. Thank you again, Ilana.